Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into something that can seriously boost your confidence in any situation.
Like a secret weapon, right?
Exactly. And today we're unlocking the secrets of introducing yourself in English like a pro.
And not just like the basic, hi, my name is. We're talking about nailing those first impressions in an why situation.
Job interview, party, meeting someone new at a conference.
We've got a stack of advice here from ESL teachers, communication coaches, even some psychology experts.
So we're bringing you the best tips to make sure you stand out for all the right reasons.
And get this, we even found a sample conversation to analyze.
I know, right? It's like eavesdropping on a masterclass and making connections.
But first, before we get to that, you won't believe how much emphasis our sources put on body language.
Oh, tell me about it. It's like your words are only half the story.
Exactly. How you carry yourself, your posture, your eye contact, it all speaks volumes before you even say a word.
Our sources break down introductions into two main categories, formal and informal.
Makes sense, right? You wouldn't walk into a board meeting the same way you'd walk into a friend's birthday party.
Exactly. And using the wrong approach can be super awkward.
Or worse, it can even be disrespectful if you come off as too casual in a formal setting.
So let's start with the classic formal introduction, like you're at a job interview or a business meeting.
Okay, picture this. You walk in the room, confident and ready to make a great first impression. What's the first thing you do?
I'm guessing a firm handshake is a good start.
It definitely is. But even before that, it's all about that initial greeting.
Right, like good morning or good afternoon.
Exactly. It sets the tone right away, shows you understand the formality of the situation.
It's like saying, I get it, this is serious business.
And then, of course, you state your full name clearly.
You'd think that's obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people mumble or just say their first name.
In a formal setting, you want to be memorable and easily identifiable.
So, full name, clear and confident. Got it.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. A lot of our sources emphasize the importance of stating your professional affiliation.
Like, I'm the marketing manager at, or I'm a software developer with.
Exactly. It gives context and credibility, helps people understand your background and expertise.
It's like you're laying your cards on the table.
And then, this is key, you need to explain the purpose of the introduction. Why are you there?
Right. It can't just be, here I am. You need a goal, right?
Absolutely. I'm here to discuss the new marketing campaign, or I'm excited to learn more about your company.
It shows you're engaged and you have a specific reason for being there.
And this is also a good time to add any relevant details about your experience.
But keep it brief, right? No one wants to hear your entire resume in the first 30 seconds.
Exactly. Choose details that are directly connected to the situation, just enough to pique their interest.
And then how do you wrap up a formal introduction smoothly?
A polite closing is essential. Thank you for your time, or it's a pleasure to meet you.
It shows respect and leaves a positive final impression.
Now, let's imagine a totally different scene. You're at a party or a networking event, and things are much more relaxed.
Okay, so the vibe is totally different. What changes in our introduction strategy?
Well, for starters, a simple hi or hey is perfect.
Right. No need for this super formal good evening.
And you can usually just use your first name, feels more approachable.
One of the sources mentioned finding a common connection right away, if you can.
Like, we met at that marketing conference last month, or Sarah told me to say hi.
It's like an instant icebreaker, helps establish a sense of familiarity.
Exactly. It shows you're paying attention and helps get the conversation flowing.
And it's way less awkward than just standing there trying to think of something to say.
Then you can share a quick tidbit about yourself, an interest, a hobby, something that sparks conversation.
I'm really into photography, or I just started learning how to play the guitar.
Exactly. It makes you more memorable and gives the other person something to connect with.
It's like an invitation to swap stories and find common ground.
And don't forget to ask open-ended questions. What brings you here tonight? Or what are you working on these days?
It shows you're genuinely interested in getting to know the other person.
And to wrap it up, a friendly, nice to meet you, or something similar does the trick.
It keeps things light and positive, signals that you enjoyed the interaction.
Now, before we move on to analyzing that sample conversation, there's one more thing we need to talk about, and it's huge E.
Oh, I know where you're going with this. Body language.
You got it. One of the experts put it this way: your body is shouting, even when your mouth is shut.
It's like a secret language we're all speaking, whether we realize it or not.
And people pick up on those cues subconsciously, even if they can't explain why they feel a certain way about someone.
So in a formal setting, I'm guessing a limb handshake is a big no-no.
Definitely. A firm handshake, but not a bone crusher, conveys confidence and professionalism.
And good posture is key. Standing tall makes you appear more self-assured, while slouching can make you seem disinterested or insecure.
It's like your body is mirroring your inner state. If you want to project confidence, you have to embody it.
Right, you can't just say the right words, you have to feel it, too.
Think about it. You're at a networking event, trying to connect with potential clients.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You're saying all the right things, but you're avoiding eye contact and your shoulders are slumped.
What message am I sending there?
That you'd rather be anywhere else. Your body language is contradicting your words.
Okay, I'm starting to see how powerful this is. So what are some specific body language tips our sources mentioned?
Well, eye contact is crucial in both formal and informal settings.
Right, but there's a fine line between good eye contact and staring someone down, isn't there?
Definitely. And there are cultural differences to keep in mind, which we'll get into later. But in general, maintaining good eye contact shows you're engaged and present.
Makes the other person feel seen and heard, which is essential for building rapport.
What else? Smiling. A genuine smile makes you appear more approachable and friendly.
It's like you're saying, hey, I'm happy to be here and I'm interested in what you have to say.
And then there's posture. We talked about standing tall in formal settings. But what about in casual situations?
I'm guessing good posture is still important, even if you're just chatting with someone at a party.
Absolutely. It conveys confidence and energy, shows you're present and engaged in the conversation.
Shoulders back, chin up, got it. What about hand gestures? Are they okay in introductions?
You know, one of the experts said that hand gestures can add emphasis and make you appear more expressive, but you don't want to overdo it.
Right, you don't want to be waving your arms around like a windmill.
Exactly. Use them sparingly, just to add a little bit of visual interest.
So it's all about finding that balance.
And here's a cool tip. Mirroring. Have you ever noticed how you naturally start to mimic the body language of people you feel comfortable with?
Oh yeah, like when you're having a great conversation and you find yourselves both leaning in or nodding at the same time.
It's a subconscious way of building rapport. And you can actually use this technique intentionally.
So if the person you're talking to is leaning forward, you lean forward slightly. If they're using their hands a lot, you subtly mirror those movements.
Exactly. But be subtle. You don't want to be like a creepy mime copying their every move. Just a little mirroring can go a long way in making people feel more connected to you.
Okay, I'm starting to see how much thought goes into this. It's like every little detail matters.
One more thing about body language, personal space. Different cultures have different norms for how close people stand to each other when they're talking.
Right, and getting too close can make people feel uncomfortable, but standing too far away can make you seem standoffish.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where everyone feels comfortable.
So we've covered a lot about body language, but our sources also provided some universal tips for introducing yourself.
Yes, these apply to both formal and the informal situations, so they're like golden nuggets of wisdom.
And we've already covered one of them, body language. So what's next on the list?
Active listening. This is something that comes up again and again in our sources.
Okay, so we've nailed the stance, the handshake, the eye contact, but now we have to actually listen, right?
More than that, you have to make them feel heard, like truly heard.
Okay, how do we do that? It's more than just nodding and saying, uh-huh, right?
Definitely. Active listening is about being present, attentive, showing genuine interest in what they're saying.
So eye contact, nodding, asking clarifying questions.
And responding thoughtfully to their comments, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
It's like you're saying, hey, I'm not just here to talk about myself. I'm actually interested in you.
Exactly. Active listening demonstrates respect, builds rapport,
and helps you gather information that can keep the conversation going.
Now, the next universal tip is a big one, especially in today's world. Adapting to cultural norms.
Right. We touched on this with eye contact and personal space, but there's so much more to it.
Different cultures have different customs and expectations around introductions.
Like, in some cultures, it's customary to bow when you meet someone, while in others, a handshake is more appropriate.
And the way you address someone can vary significantly, too. In some cultures, using titles and last names is essential, while in others, it's more common to use first names right away.
It seems like there's a lot of potential for missteps if you're not aware of these differences.
Exactly. And even if you're not sure about the specific customs, just being mindful and respectful goes a long way.
Okay, cultural sensitivity is officially in the toolkit. What's next?
Be confident.
I feel like that's easier said than done for a lot of people, especially when it comes to introducing themselves.
But confidence isn't about being arrogant or bragging.
It's about believing in yourself and your worth, right?
Exactly. And it shows in how you carry yourself, how you speak.
Speak clearly at a good pace, project your voice.
Stand tall, make eye contact, and don't be afraid to take up space.
One of the experts said, think of confidence as a magnet. It draws people in.
Love that. And you know what goes hand in hand with confidence?
I'm going to guess authenticity.
Bingo. People can spot a fake a mile away. So be yourself.
Let your personality shine through, even in professional settings.
It's about being genuine and relatable, showing that you're not just a collection of qualifications or accomplishments, but a real person.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground. Formal versus informal, the power of body language, those 5 universal tips.
It's a lot to take in, but the good news is introducing yourself well is a skill you can practice.
Like anything, the more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
And the more confident you'll feel.
So, are you ready to put all this into practice? Because we've got that sample conversation to analyze next, and it's a great way to see how these tips work in a real-world setting.
Let's do it. Welcome back. I'm really excited to dig deeper into this sample conversation our sources gave us.
Me too. I always learn so much from seeing how these tips play out in real life.
Okay, so just to recap, this conversation takes place at a college party.
Definitely a more informal setting, so we can see how those casual introduction strategies work.
Right. And our 2 characters are Sarah and John meeting for the first time.
So let's jump in. The conversation starts with Sarah approaching John, who's standing by the snack table.
And right away, Sarah uses one of the tips we talked about, finding a common connection.
She says, hey, you're in Dr. Smith's English class, right?
Smart move. It breaks the ice instantly and gives them something to talk about.
It also shows she's been paying attention and remembers seeing John in class.
Exactly. It's way better than just saying, hi, what's your name?
Plus, it subtly implies they already have something in common, a shared experience in that class.
No, John could have just said, yeah, and left it at that.
But he keeps the conversation going by adding, yep, that's me. I'm John, by the way.
He introduces himself, and then, this is smart, he immediately follows up with a question. You're Sarah, right?
It shows he's engaged and interested in learning more about her.
And he also confirms her name, so there's no awkwardness later on.
Right, it's like they're already establishing a little bit of rapport.
Now, Sarah could have just said, yeah, that's right, and the conversation might have fizzled out.
But instead, she keeps it going by saying, that's me. I'm surprised you remember my name. Dr. Smith's class is huge.
She injects a little humor, which helps lighten the mood.
And it also opens the door for John to respond.
He says, well, you always have the best answers in class. It's hard not to notice.
Ooh, that's a good one. It's a compliment, but it's not cheesy or over the top.
Exactly. It's genuine and specific, shows he's actually been paying attention.
And it makes Sarah feel good, which helps build that connection.
Now notice what Sarah does next. Instead of just saying, oh, thanks, she uses it as an opportunity to reveal a little bit more about herself.
She says, haha, thanks. I actually really love English literature. It's one of my passions.
She's sharing an interest, which gives John even more to connect with.
And it subtly positions her as someone who's intelligent and engaged.
Now, John could have just said, that's cool, and moved on. But instead, he asks a follow-up question. Really, what's your favorite book?
Another smart move. It shows he's actively listening and genuinely interested in what she has to say.
And it keeps the conversation flowing naturally.
Right. It's like a tennis match. They're volleying back and forth, building on each other's comments.
Now, if you think back to the tips we discussed earlier, you can see how Sarah and John are hitting all the right notes.
They found a common connection, kept the conversation flowing with questions, shared a bit about themselves.
And they did it all in a way that feels natural and engaging.
I'm noticing something else, too. Even though they're just chatting at a party, their body language is probably playing a big role in how well this introduction is going.
Absolutely. We can't see it, but I bet they're making eye contact, smiling, maybe even subtly mirroring each other's movements.
It's all happening subconsciously, but it's creating that sense of rapport and connection.
Now let's talk about what happens next in the conversation, because things take an interesting turn.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What happens?
Well, Sarah starts talking about her favorite author, Jane Austen, and John actually admits he's never read any of her books.
Uh-oh. Potential conversation killer.
You'd think so, right? But watch how Sarah handles it.
Okay, let's hear it.
She doesn't make him feel bad or act like he's missing out. Instead, she says, "Oh, you should definitely check her out. Pride and Prejudice is my absolute favorite. It's a classic for a reason."
That's such a great approach. She's enthusiastic and encouraging, not judgmental.
And she's subtly planting a seed, maybe piquing his interest in reading Jane Austen.
And John picks up on that. He says, okay, I'll have to add it to my list. What is it about? Give me the quick pitch.
He's totally open to learning more, and he's even asking for her recommendation.
This is going so well. They've gone from complete strangers to talking about books in a matter of minutes.
It just shows how powerful a good introduction can be.
And how those little details, finding common ground, asking questions, sharing a bit about yourself can really make a difference.
Now, the conversation goes on from there, but we won't spoil the ending.
But I think we can all agree that Sarah and John nailed that first impression.
Totally. They've laid the foundation for a potential friendship, all thanks to a well-executed introduction.
So, what can we learn from this example? What are the key takeaways for our listener?
Well, first of all, don't underestimate the power of finding a common connection.
It's an instant icebreaker and gives you something to talk about right away.
And keep a conversation flowing with questions.
It shows you're interested and engaged, and it helps you learn more about the other person.
Don't be afraid to share a little bit about yourself.
An interest, a hobby, a fun fact, anything that makes you more memorable and relatable.
And if the conversation hits a snag, don't panic.
Like Sarah did with the Jane Austen thing, just keep it light and positive.
You never know where the conversation might lead.
And most importantly, relax and be yourself. People can sense when you're genuine, and that's what really makes a connection. All right, so we've broken down a ton of tips and strategies from our sources. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling way more prepared to handle any introduction that comes my way.
Me too. It's like we've been doing it all wrong this whole time.
Well, maybe not wrong, but definitely room for improvement.
Right. Like I never really thought about how much my body language could be affecting those first impressions.
It's so subtle, but it makes a huge difference.
It's like those hidden messages we're sending without even realizing it.
Exactly. So for our listener who's ready to take their introductions to the next level, what are the absolute must-haves? What should they be focusing on?
Okay, first things first, and this is huge GE. Know your audience and the context. Are you in a formal setting or a casual one?
Right. It's like that outfit analogy we talked about. You wouldn't wear a suit to the beach or a swimsuit to a job interview.
Exactly. You got to tailor your approach to fit the situation.
So formal introduction, think professional, concise, highlight your relevant skills and experience.
And don't forget that firm handshake. Projects confidence right from the start.
But in a casual setting, you can relax a bit more, be more yourself, focus on finding common ground.
Right. Shared interests, hobbies, things you can connect over.
And one thing that's essential in both formal and informal settings.
Oh, you know it. Active listening.
It's like the secret sauce of a great introduction.
Makes people feel seen and heard. Shows you genuinely care about what they have to say.
And don't be afraid to ask questions. It keeps the conversation flowing and helps you learn more about the other person.
Okay, what else? Confidence. Project your voice, stand tall, make eye contact.
It's not about being cocky. It's about believing in yourself and what you have to offer.
And authenticity. Let your personality shine through. People connect with realness.
It's like we can all smell a phony a mile away.
Right? So be genuine, be yourself, and people will respond to that.
So we've covered a ton of ground here. Formal versus informal, body language, those universal tips.
And I think the biggest takeaway is that anyone can master the art of making a great first impression.
It's not some magical talent. It's a skill you can learn and practice.
Exactly. So to everyone listening, think about those introductions you've made recently.
What went well? What could you have done differently?
Take these insights, practice, and watch your confidence soar.
We're rooting for you. And until next time, happy introducing.